You're listening to the Adventure Party for the third week of April 2024. This week, drink deep and descend into the D's of our 5e Spell Cull. The Adventure Party, discussing tabletop related gaming the Irish way.
Oh, what a stretch. You know what? I was feeling a bit nauseous at the start of that Warlord Scarr, but by the end of it, I think I really found my sea legs.
Well, I am delighted for you.
Oh, yes. Well done. Sorry, listeners. That was a bit loud. Okay, yes. Fantastic. We're back for another episode of the... Wait a second, I get the reverb. No, just turned my microphone off. Wait a second to get the reverb. Spell Cull 8. Hope that didn't blow out any speakers.
Oh, well, the editor will fix it. This is probably me.
You do most of these, don't you? Just a quirk of the process.
But regardless, folks, we are, despite all warnings and all advice, we are still attempting to scrape off the barnacles off the D&D 5e spell list and try to bring it down to something manageable, which of course means that it is going to take us literal years of podcasting to complete this. But perhaps if we, at some point get good at this, we might start, knocking them off even quicker.
If we were brief, it wouldn't entertain us, and if it doesn't entertain us, we're not doing it. Wasn't there like a podcaster really fond who recommended to me that they were going through the original DMG, see previous episodes, and they hadn't even finished by the time we'd knocked out an entire series on the DMG.
Like, you think we're bad from asides? These guys will go like 2 lines and they'll just diverge. First, they'll diverge into like the history of D&D. Then they'll dive into philosophy for a half hour, and then they'll divert into like some random anecdote from their college days or something, and you'll get 5 digressions deep. This is the not Ben Hodges, he's a military guy. Ben Riggs, D&D historian. Bit of a controversial figure these days, but yes,
Ben Riggs. You make one tweet.
Well, that's what Twitter's for, to help you make one tweet.
One tweet. Okay. So it's Ben Riggs' podcast about the DMG, yeah?
Yeah, he is, I think, 30 pages in, and
wow.
Yeah, and like I think they got stuck much like we had to push through the section on what every gemstone does for magic and how many captains you have to buy per 10 footmen, and what the different type of footmen were, and how all of them came naked to your castle because otherwise you would get free equipment or something, and other such nonsenses. They just where we powered through. They get tripped up on every single line and find something. Sorry, this is sort of inside baseball as we just digressing, complaining about other podcasters digressing.
I've forgotten what our own series was called now. Let me look it up. It's really good, folks. You should check it. The Tome of Gygax, running for a princely, I want to say 27 episodes.
28, I believe. And we do.
No, it wasn't a round number. I know that for sure, because that's just not how we roll. If I find an answer. Oh, anyways, this is episode 8 of the Spell Cull, or whatever the hell we're calling it, the Spell Cull, depending on which title card you look at.
That guy is getting mustachier and beefier every time. And they say that AI is failing us, so it's clearly getting stronger in this case.
I think he's great. He's the strongman historian. Check out, or librarian, I can't remember, but check out the episodes on YouTube. You can find by searching for the Adventuring Party. No, not that one. You might have to do a bit of digging on that one. But you will find links on our Discord. Early Discord shout out. So you'll find a link to Discord in our show notes, where you can check out previous episodes and discussions about episodes and other things. It's like having a little adventuring party all week long. not just on Sundays when we usually release these. So yeah, I'm still scrolling back through. It's so hard to search this. I could search, could do a search, but I'm not going to do a search. Okay, while I'm doing something pointless, you should probably push us in the right direction, which is kind of our mojo. So we are going to cover the spells that start with
D. This is time for Big D. And we will begin with the most impressive of these, Dancing Lights. This is a cantrip that creates 4 torch-sized lights within 120 feet that last up to a minute. And as bonus action, you can move them around.
22 episodes. Apparently, it's like,
Oh,
don't know why I thought it was an odd number.
I thought it was more than that. Okay.
Strange, isn't it?
But yes.
Oh wait, no, there's a finale. No, it's 23 episodes. Oh my god.
Okay. All
I
right.
didn't put the numbers. Okay, folks. I better go back to the right tab here. This is getting very chaotic. You'll find out why if you listen after the credits on this episode. Right, Dancing Lights, cantrip. So, I think I've often overlooked this. It's quite good at low level. It's kind of iconic. Anything you want to say? Look, why are we culling this? Or why are we keeping
And this is sort of a counterpoint to light. In earlier editions, these were similar but different spells that had Dancing Lights was more like meant to be this kind of distraction spell, that it was like putting lights here and there and making people confused. Now it's a do you want the question is between having dancing lights and having the light cantrip. Do you want to have a torch, or do you want to have 4 candles circling around you? It's a it's you get brighter light at a bigger radius with the light spell, but it doesn't. But you could, in theory, cover more total ground using dancing lights, and it helps if you're the type of party that splits up, maybe.
Okay. Is light isn't a cantrip, is it?
Yes, it is. Light is cantrip. This is a controversial. This is a major controversy. If it is that you can have as much lights as you want.
Um, is it though? Yeah, okay, so the Torchmakers Guild is probably out quite a bit of dough at this point.
Yeah,
If they're both cantrips, just combine them. This is interesting, I have to say. Like we want to appear as more bodies than we are, kind of thing. Real Spartacus move. Yeah, just fold it into light. They're both cantrips. This is good, but not good enough to be its own thing.
yeah. I would like we're trying not to get derailed into the problems of D&D mechanics and the controversies caused by having infinite light sources on any spellcaster. So we won't go to that. So let's assume for the time being that light is a cantrip that should exist. In that case, I would say that dancing lights and does not need to be a separate thing from light. It's okay for cantrip to be modal. Look at prestidigitation. And we'll soon be coming up on Druidcraft. So yeah, I think it's okay for cantrip to have a couple of different ways to use it. And I just say, yeah, combine this with lights, or just call it all together.
It's concentration spell. It only lasts a minute. Cull. What a waste of time. That's just make this like it's 2 lines. Put it into the light spell as an option. You can split the light. It's dimmer, but there's more of them. You can spread them around. Like you just make some ambiance. Put on some Barry White. It's a whole vibe. Right. Okay. I'm dance no more. Moving on to
Darkness, the opposite of this.
my old friend.
My old bugbear. Okay, so this is the other side of the great light debate that is in the D&D, where I don't think this was a problem in earlier editions the same way. It started in 3rd edition, as so many things did, where they'd gotten to the point where there are so many races with Darkvision in 5th ed, and this meant that
Including variant human.
including very human. Okay, originally the thing about the darkness spell was it was an effect that they loved giving to demons. This was apparently the great big thing that demons would always do. Is they'd cast darkness on the party, wade in, and just start stabbing them in the shadows. And because it was perfect pitch black darkness, there was nothing they could do. and they would just get stabbed. And this was apparently the only combat trick that demons ever needed. It's also incredibly unsatisfying, but that's another rant. They realized around our third edition that despite still thinking that this was a cool thing that they should do, that it wasn't working anymore because you had all the dwarves and gnomes and so on and so forth, and growing in each edition as they decided to drop low light vision and just give everyone dark vision. So that created the phenomenon known as magical darkness, which is different from regular darkness. So now you have double special darkness, which even dark vision cannot penetrate. And now we're so deep in modes of darkness. And then you get into the thing where you have to have different levels of light spell to dispel the darkness. And you can sort of understand why people think that light and darkness is such a big thing in D&D and needs to be specially controlled to their way of doing things. And it just seems so goddamn pointless to me. I don't even want to read out what the spell does. I want to call this. I want to get rid of this entire goddamn
Okay,
thing.
hold on a second. Is the problem the spell? Is the problem the spell, or is the problem Darkvision?
I say it's a spell. I think first off, okay. When you have entire massive groups of really powerful enemies, and their one combat trick for like 4 editions ago in a row was we're super ugly and scary, and now you can't see us, and now we're stabbing you, and that's your only trick.
That sounds a lot of my experiences in nightclubs, yeah. That's okay. I mean, being a demon, also, you know, there's a few the claws and the rending. Um, I know this is used today by warlocks to some extent.
Yeah, warlocks, because they have demon power, can get the special double dark vision, which can see through
They can see through this, so they hide inside it and just. Oh, what's the Eldritch Blast for?
I had a warlock in third ed whose entire survival strategy was fly up into the roof, drop darkness on himself, and then snipe from outside the bubble of darkness.
I'm playing in a game with one of those at the moment. It's like, yeah, we've got our air support. No, you can't see him. It's like fighting the Americans. It's I do agree though that the double dark vision, double darkness, magic darkness, double magic darkness, it does get a bit. It's quite kludgy. It's a bit frustrating.
Okay, we've already seen the better or at least more understandable version of this. We saw blindness and blindness earlier in the thing in the bees, and that does the same thing, but has a sensible number of targets. You're essentially asking, is it worth having an extra, like an AoE version of blindness, but it doesn't work on devils? Is that a useful thing to have when we could just say, get the effect of these people can't see and just use the blindness spell to represent it?
Okay. What are the other good warlock builds? Because I know that this is one of the major ones they rely on, and you can't say coffee lock.
I mean, blade lock still works. You can just turn yourself massive sword of darkness. I'm sure there's someone who's found really good ways to abuse that free ritual tome book.
Yeah, I think that it's a second level spell that facilitates an entire build that is quite broken, and there's not a lot of ways of getting around it, bar splash AoE.
Or having or investing in higher level light spells, which I guess that's one benefit of making light a cantrip, is it means you can't upcast it. You needed to get other light spells instead. No, I don't like. I don't want to get rid of this entire thing.
I'm with you. I'm gonna upset a lot of warlock players, but I think you're right. Cole.
Just use the spell sniper feat and just shoot them from 300 feet away, like a proper wizard.
Oh well, proper wizards. Thin on the ground these days. Let's move on. If okay, this is kind of ironic because the next spell,
It's dark vision.
another second level spell, duration 8 hours, no concentration. Touch a willing creature, granted the ability to see in the dark. Creature has dark vision out to 60 feet.
Interesting that there's no option to upcast There's no option to like cast on multiple.
Into double dark vision.
There's a double dark vision thing because there's also the having it have a longer range, and then it's just casting it on multiple people. Like if you are one of those weird parties where it's like three elves, two dwarves, and one pure human. Do you want to have the thing where you have like like 10 party members with dark vision and one poor guy who has to sit at the back with a torch and not annoy everyone else? Or do you want to have the situation where you have like one token dark vision? Sorry, this entire debate is so deep. We could, folks, if you actually wanted to have a debate on the importance of darkness in dungeons, send a request into our Discord. Just come in. I think we still have an email. Discord's preferred, but you can still email us.
info@theadventuringparty.net, something like that. I wouldn't know where to check to find out. I'm not even sure. No one ever told me where to check the emails. But yeah, if you want to talk to us, double Discord call out. It's that kind of episode. We're more than responsive on there. But yeah, okay, we are going to get derailed, but dark vision does require an awful lot of other things to happen around it. And yeah, I'm in a game at the moment playing on Roll20 where I think I'm one of the few people in the party that doesn't have dark vision, and it is an absolute pain in the ass. And no, I'm not going to wear the goggles. So let's step out of the darkness.
Into sorry, I assume we both call.
Oh yeah, Cull. Especially because as you say, can't be upcast to cover more people, which is when it would actually be kind of useful. Bards don't get this. It's Druid, Ranger, Sorcerer, Wizard, Artificer, not Bards. Why not?
I guess if it bars the dark, he's busy with something else.
Well, it's gone a bit carry on now. Okay, daylight.
Which is when the bard mysteriously disappears. Daylight is the next level in this the endless battle between light and darkness.
Third level, importantly.
Yeah, this is a third level application it creates like 60 feet of bright light and 60 feet of dim light beyond it, so a noticeable difference over regular light. You can put it on objects like the regular light spell, and it dispels regular ass darkness.
It is the sort of, we want to make a point here, light beats dark. Like that's kind of thematic.
Assuming you're 2 levels above the dark user, yeah.
Well, it's third level spell, right? So it can't be dispelled by darkness, which is second level. Or my misunderstanding? Oh, I see. Yeah, you've got to be 2 levels above.
We are spared the endless escalation of previous editions with deeper darkness and super double sunlight. Like I'm pretty sure when we get to S, there will be a whole bunch of sun spells, which are the double, triple, omega light spells.
Okay, this apart from the war between light and dark, this is useful for. There's a whole bunch of enemies in the monster manual where this is going to be applicable. This does something useful.
Yeah, if you have actual like a massive area of bright light, this is meant to inconvenience orcs and kobolds and the like, and really, get them.
Thinking some Underdark races, I think Durgar don't like bright lights, and then certain undead as well. It's going to hamper them. So yeah, I think this, and it's a classic. Like cast daylight, let there be light. Let there be light. Any of our Christian D&Ders out there, like this is going to be on the list. How could you not shout it?
It is a cleric staple and has been for many years. Okay, I'm sort of going around the point is these are spells that are going to be either critical to you as you play around with these, darkness and mechanics, and do you risk going without torches if it means relying on spells, and if you're in that kind of thing where you're willing to trade spells for convenience or cantrip choices for giving your allies the ability to shoot in the dark or whatever. I guess this kind of thing can be useful, but I really doubt that the majority of 5e clerics are making extra special sure. Like they'll take light as a cantrip for the theme, but unless it's specific, unless like it is literally a campaign of fighting increasingly larger hobgoblins who have disadvantage or whatever. I don't see engaging with any of this. Like we are very much in the thing of one person is like sellotaped a burning torch to the edge of their shield. That
Universal glue, surely.
these are spells that are going to be relevant if you make them relevant, but I don't think a lot of people want to, and that puts me in the mind to say Cull. I don't think if you are going to make light and seeing and shadow relevant to your game, sure, but I'm not sure. Like in the context of Spell Cull, where we're trying to make these
Scar, are you not playing a lot of Roll20 or any of the other virtual tabletops at the moment?
okay, now you're underway. Yeah, okay.
It's super important. What you can see and what you can't see
Yeah, okay.
is super important.
Well, that's okay, Mr. Hasbro shareholder, that you have discovered that.
Oh, okay, right. Gonna roll up my, just gonna expose the hairy forearms and get ready for a throwdown. You don't need to be a Hasbro shareholder to use Roll20. Roll20 is an independent company. They support many game systems. I can't think of any others beyond D&D at the moment. Pretty heavy integration between D&D Beyond and Roll20. I have to admit it. But doesn't matter. Foundry, Tabletop Simulator, whatever. What's the good one? Owlbear Rodeo? Is that a tabletop thing or is that a
That is of some sort. I can't remember exactly. I know there's.
name check a few of them just to make my point? If you've got line of sight and if you've got light mechanics, and a lot of them do, because it is kind of funky to have it, then some of this stuff becomes hugely important. Do I have a torch on me? Or not even just do I have a torch on me? Does someone in the party have a torch? And what does that mean? I found it to be it's sometimes incredibly frustrating and sometimes it really reinforces oh, I don't want to be left alone with no light down here, depending on the map and depending how it's set up. I've gotten a side on this about light and object permanence in virtual tabletops, but I'll save that for another time. But yeah, this might seem irrelevant, but honestly, I think some of this not so much the darkness stuff per se, but some of the light stuff has become, for me at least, like front and center. Like because I can't navigate a dungeon I can't see.
Yeah, no, that actually, your point is well made. It is, if you are set up for this kind of let's call it location based dungeon, things matter. Where you are matters. Where your position matters. What you have in your other hand is it a shield, is it a wand, or is it a torch? If you can set up for that matters, that is entirely would justify that version of this kind of light based play, and suddenly you're doing what a third level spell should do, is a single cast of the spell. It can change an entire battlefield or multiple rooms of a dungeon, turn them into a completely different experience. Absolutely. It speaks to a part of the game which I'm not sure is universal. I think it's always intended to be more widespread by the owners of the D&D licenses. We saw when we read the Dungeon Master Guide, Guy Gax was selling dungeon tiles and miniatures in the book itself. So even back then, they thought that was an important part of the experience, and then that kind of gameplay, light mechanics become really useful and turn what can some people might think is a very staid mapping exercise into a they just like once you realize that you can see only like 20% of this room, all of a sudden the thing where you only have a 2 in 6 chance of noticing any secret room after spending 10 minutes there makes a lot more sense when you're in that kind of shadowy flickery light thing where is that a seam in the wall or is it just my eyes playing tricks on me? If you could get that kind of I don't call it immersion, but that sort of vibe of can you trust your eyes, what's hidden in the dark, I can see a lot of value in that. I don't know if that's the core experience that a lot of players look
The
for.
important word there is if.
Yes.
Yeah, fair, and that's fair enough. I've seen I've had fun with this sort of stuff on the virtual tabletop where you've got bright light and dim light out to an additional radius, and just setting up a dungeon so that your players kind of creep along, and then one of them goes, "Wait, I think I can see something ahead," and they kind of move the map and go, "Oh no, I think I know what that is," and then panic ensues. But it is very circumstantial. I think light sources sort of get a bit hand waved in Theatre of the Mind and in sort of looser systems, and even on tabletops where you don't have an entire engine running the lighting for you. So yeah, I don't know that I can bring myself to cull this, but its value really does depend on how you're playing the game.
Let's call this a quantum cult.
Like the ogre.
Like if you're doubling down on that kind of dungeon based play, then yeah, I would say that this kind of thing might be worth keeping around. But if you're the kind of campaign where there's going to be 3 dungeons in your entire 10-level excursion, and the rest is going to be, rooting around in taverns and, negotiating with angels or whatever, you maybe it may be more convenient for you to ignore this section of the Dungeon Master's Guide of the PHP and just pretend someone has a very shiny rock, and that will do you for light for the entire.
Buy a lantern and oil. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just have to put that one to rest. Speaking of putting things to rest,
Or preventing them having to be put to rest.
I suppose so. Yeah,
Death Ward.
that was a reverse squeegee or segue, as I like to think of it. Death Ward, 4th level, 8 hours.
It targets a single creature that protects from death, either when they get hit by a save or die effect, or when they get brought down to 0 hit points by more normal methods. The spell will save them from this one, horrible fate, and then end.
They're dropped. They go to 1 hit point instead, which is basically full health.
It's an okay buff. I get what it's doing, but we haven't got R yet, and when we get to R, there's going to be probably another completely big side debate over the whole raised dead mechanics. But
it's nothing but debates from here on in.
I mean, this is. I think one of the main reasons we keep doing this thing is to show decades of craft that has been patched over by just padding out the spell list.
Where does this one come from?
From the earlier editions when there were save or dies all over the place, mainly.
Okay, so this is it. This isn't one of these, "Oh, well, Gandalf did it, therefore it has to be in it," in the game. This is more like, this is born out of played experience.
I'm pretty sure this is a second ed baby. People were fed up of running Dragonlance and then having all those iconic characters die to random ghouls or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, something booped me one too many times. My ability score. I'm dead. Yeah. This is a very this is one that's sort of, it's for the grid based players. It's for the, we're getting at a lot of combats players. It's for the escalating threat players. Like, okay, GM has signaled that we're going in against the big bad and no one's pulling punches. We need a little bit of insurance.
Yeah. And in that respect, I think it's fine. My issue is that this spell is costed between Revivify and Raise Dead. And is that the right place for it to be?
You can cast Revivify is what? It's
The 3rd level spell. It has an expensive material component. But it is, if you're talking about efficiency of spell slots, rules as written, it may be more efficient for you to just let your party members die and then revivify them than it would be to spend all your 4th level slots on death wards.
Okay, I'm confessing my ignorance now. What does Revivify do?
It's a raised dead, but it only works for if someone's been dead for less than a minute. It's like it's.
How long does it take?
I think it's around. It's always been around in all the fights.
It's like an action, yeah. Okay. And they come back as themselves or as a random roll? That's what I think. This is what I'm trying to half remember. Is Revivify the one where you come back as a hilarious roll to see what race you are?
No, you're thinking of reincarnation. As I said, we will get the R's eventually. No, Revivify
Fair
is
enough.
You spend 300 gold of diamonds, or spoilers for the 2027 podcast. You touch the creature that died, cost time of actions, it returns life with 1 hit point. And it has to be someone who, didn't just die of old age.
Okay. I think okay, this is costed higher because you can put it in place beforehand and it isn't taking up your action during the combat.
Yeah, there's a certain degree of that. I'm just wondering, like, what type of gameplay. I may have covered some of this in the what game is Fifth Dead anyway episode from about a year ago, maybe 2 now. Do you want a game where people just punch each other in the face and cure all the damage away, and that's your back and forth, or do you want a game where people are trying to avoid damage and trying to work around consequences? Because if you're in the former type of game, I would say Cull Death Ward because it's less efficient than just playing the dying game on the damage game on another level by abusing Revivify. But if you're in the other kind where you don't want that, it's all right if he gets his head chopped off, we'll just glue it back on, mindset, and you want people to be afraid of dying, I would say you want to cut something like Revivify and put in Death Ward. So this is another one where it's kind of in a quantum situation, because if you're in the type of game where a GM has decided, no, in this fantasy menu there is no raised dead, then suddenly Death Ward is the most important spell you can have going. But if you're in a casual game of beer drinkers where you want to just put people back on their feet after a big dust up, then you're probably just happy enough just mark off the gold, you'll owe us something later, and get back on your feet. What do you mean you saw the face of God? Shut up, we're in the middle of a dungeon. Don't get distracted.
But my narrative, oh man, I don't know. This is sort of, we're deep in the weeds on this one. Where does this come out in the wash in terms of game as game, the narrative beats, as you say, how it's costed against other things?
I'm sorry, but this is sorry everyone, but this is the episode where a whole bunch of these D's, whether you call them or not, depends on whether or not you're calling other spells, I think.
If we get into that mindset, though, we're done. Like, we can't continue. We have to cross-reference. I'm going to need a spreadsheet and some macros. I'm going to cut through all of that and say, Cull. I think I agree with you, and I think it's one thing to get someone back on their feet with an action. It's quite another thing to go, nah, to preload your nah-ahs. And I hate nah-ahs. Anyone who's listened to our episode on, is it Counterspell?
Yeah.
Yeah, knows I hate nah-ahs. And this is a big nah-ah. That super turbo death move did kill the paladin. So figure out your next move, boys. Maybe you get him back on his feet, maybe you don't. I noticed this is cleric and paladin only. Alchemist, I don't know what that is. That's not a thing. Or whatever, whoever else cast this, I don't care. Classes I recognize, those are the ones I want to talk about. Yeah, cool.
There's a part of me that would prefer the world where this was better than Revivify. But in the game as written, which sadly is what we have to review or judge this against, I think we can get rid of Death Ward. Dice buff, I don't think it's needed though. We're not back in second, and you're not facing Vecna.
Except for when you are, yeah.
Yeah, actually, now Vecna might be coming back a little bit these days. I hear they're starting him up something fierce. Anyway, if your DM calls Death Ward Dark card and that means Vecna gets you, we're sorry.
We're not that sorry, but yeah.
It's the end of the edition. Vecna's supposed to kill you.
Our bad. All right. Look, we can't put it off any longer. We have to cover this one. It is
Delayed Blast Fireball.
Because the alphabet works the way it does, we're getting to this before Fireball. What can I say about this that I'm not going to say about Fireball? It's 7th level, so there's that.
It's okay. Here's the thing: because it's 7th level, it loses a lot of its. Oh wait, then there's the trick.
Why is this a concentration spell?
You have to charge it up. It's like Hadoken. You have to cast it, put it in a place, and then hope no one touches it for the whatever 10 rounds to charge it up to full, and then set it off. if you have this kind of spell where it gets more and more powerful the more you delay, and you have a kind of interesting, fun thing where you're trying to basically corral or trick your enemies. There's people who might say that this is a something about zone control, where you like kind of have your fighters in the front, keeping the monsters locked in so you can charge up a delayed blast fireball on them. However, whenever I see this thing, I always think of a fun trick of like hiding a delayed blast fireball inside a bucket and then trying to trick the enemies to stand next to the bucket for an entire minute.
Make it a bucket of, you know what? You make it a bucket of those free samples they give out at supermarkets. That's like
Don't worry about the glowing and the burning spell.
that's just the hot plate for the sausages. Don't worry about it. That okay? You're sacrificing one nice lady in a white coat and one of those hairnets to pull off this ruse. But you know what are minions for?
all right.
Okay, so this is the first time I've ever read Delayed Blast Fireball. So the concentration is you're holding it in until it goes off, and each round so it starts at D12 a 12d6. Each round where it doesn't go off, add a d6. So you sweat popping out your forehead. You're making that face. You're going.
Well, you're not really, because it's just a concentration spell. You can still cast other spells while doing it. And I think that's the big weakness here is what are you going to be doing for the rest of that minute? I think you're going to be casting regular fireballs and just stacking up the damage that way. And, okay. Sorry, this is another one where it's very hard to review this spell.
What else is 7th level that you could cast instead of this? Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one. But it's a trip, it's Claymore. It's a landmine for wizards, which, why not?
Okay, I'm not going to review this as a damage spell because that's just going to run us straight into the fireball debate. And we're not having the fireball debate because we have things to say about fireball when we get to that. As a trap spell, however, that's, I think, the only fair way to give Delayed Blast Fireball its own merits. Is it, do you want a shenanigans spell? Do you want a 7th level spell where the maximum value is obtained by either locking in your opponents with the bodies or other tricks or other spells, or do you want shenanigans? If you're going to want this to be a trap spell, I would want it to be more trappy. I would want to really double
It's
down on
the something touches it part is what really makes it interesting. So if the glow speed is touched before the interval expired, creature makes a dexterity saving throw, fail save, spell ends immediately. Successful save, the creature can throw the bead up to 40 feet. This is nuts. Okay. I love the fact that it's a landmine that might just get thrown back at you like a pie if you're not careful with it. This is a weird spell. This is so weird. This might be one of the few spells that anybody, can simply pick up and turn against the spellcaster, and it's 7th level, and it's concentration. Okay. Last piece of this is the upcast on this. Casters higher levels get an extra d6 of damage. Damage isn't the thing I'm worried about with this spell. It's duration and flexibility, so that's a horrible upcast. It does nothing for me.
Yeah.
Cull? Good idea, bad execution.
Yeah, I think you want to call. I think you would, to make this a viable spell, you'd have to basically cut it away from Fireball and the Fireball math, we might want to call it, and just double down on it either as a bigger version of like Glyph of Warding or whatever.
Flame hands.
No, I mean like a trap spell where you like cast it and leave it there, and then someone kicks the bucket over and it explodes.
Make it a claymore. Make it a fire cone spell that you place, that you have a bit more control over, that is doing tons of damage. Like, why do we need different fireball? There's other interesting fire-based damage spells that have area effects. I think the idea that you're trying to pick an angle or figure out how to put a tripwire on this, or trying to lure people into it, works so much better as a directed blast, which is what a cone is.
Yeah, I would say this would either want to either double down on being a trap spell or double down on it being a big Kamehameha style, where it's like it starts at like 5d6 and goes up by 5d6 per round.
All right, hold on. I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! You're the second person this week that has said Kamehameha, and I still not. The first one was a color theory tutorial, so I'm not really sure what's happening. Can you explain the term Kamehameha for me? I think it's something to do with anime.
It's from Dragon Ball Z. And Kamehameha is when you decide you don't want to animate very much for the next 10 minutes. So you just have Goku's actor screaming into the microphone and for as long as he can as he charges up an ever increasingly large blue laser in his hand. And then at the end of the episode, he sets it off. And it probably misses because Dragon Ball Z likes faking you out with how effective its moves are. And
Right. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. Have you seen One Punch Man?
I not deeply, but I am. Whenever he actually throws a punch, it does stuff like that.
There's only like one season of it, maybe two. I'm not sure. Go and watch it. It's amazing. But okay, now I know what Kamehameha. It's a take on Dragon Ball and a whole bunch of other things. But okay, now I understand. Yeah, absolutely. This should really feel like a lot more Kamehameha. The damage increases aren't enough. The higher level increases aren't enough. It's the wrong shape. I'm like, this is occupying the space of a much more interesting trap spell.
Yeah.
So Cull, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we need to get away from all these deep topics. So let's escape to
The
Dem-
Demiplane. Are we alternating on this now? Okay, fair enough. It was a good setup. I was a little slow there. Okay, Demiplane, 8th level, duration 1 hour. I don't know what it does. I think you get it's what we all did when we got rid of travel agents, right? Like I'm just going to go there myself. So you create a shadowy door on a flat, solid surface that you can see with every. You make a door large enough for medium creatures. When opened, it leads to a demiplane that appears to be an empty room. 30. Oh, this is just an extra planar thing, not an actual. Okay, it's a demiplane. So it's like a private plane, like a chat room. Rope trick is better. Every time you cast a spell, you create a new demiplane. Or have the shadow door connect to demiplane you created previous casting. Additionally, you know the nature and contents. Oh, is it semi-permanent? Like it persists.
yeah, you can have it be semi-permanent. In fact, you can in fact trap people inside it if you want.
Okay.
Because it's not a concentration spell, you can't end it early, so I guess you have to dispel your own magic in order to close the door on people.
So presumably it's a door you can something door large enough. It's a door though. You can close the door.
Yeah, but you can't lock it until the spell ends.
Well, you can just put knock. What's the lock spell? There's got to be one, right?
I guess.
Magic lock. I'm gonna guess. Okay, it's a 30-foot room, 30-foot cube, which you can decorate.
Yeah, each time you cast a spell, you can either go back to one of your previous demi-planes or just forget about it and have them send off into the mist between realities or whatever.
I have so many questions. Like, okay, it's a utility spell. I don't know. Rope trick strikes me as being better because you get a rope.
Yeah. No, actually, that is the main problem with this, is that while this is more flexible than rope trick, absolutely, you could probably come up with a whole bunch of other extra uses for it. It's 4 times the level of rope trick, isn't it? Or is rope trick 3rd level?
I think rope trip is. Yeah, I think it's third. Man, it's got me out of so much trouble.
Yeah, well, yeah, oh no, it's actually his 2nd level, because Jesus Christ.
Fair.
So Demiplane is okay. I'm going to do my usual spiel. In previous editions, the point of Demiplane was not to have a 1 hour chill out room to have a coffee and a quick smoke. It was to literally spend XP and hundreds of thousands of gold on creating an altered dimension of your own creation for which you could flee at any moment or something to that effect. It was a create your own universe spell with a whole bunch of complicated rules. I understand why they decided not to go that route this time. But the result is they've created an 8th level spell, which I would say its simplicity gives it a lot of flexibility. But it does, asks an awful lot of questions of interplanar mechanics. Can I just leave people there in there to suffocate? Can I lock the door? These kinds of things. But also it raises the question of if I'm just going to use this to rest, rope trick lasts 8 hours. I can just sleep up there.
Or, one of the huts or forts or whatever.
Okay. Well, again, when we get to L and R, we're going to have questions there. Actually, no, rope trick only lasts an hour as well. Huh.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Okay, this thing, like the interior of this thing persists. So the door disappears after an hour, but the demiplane exists like forever from the moment it's cast. In fact, in the back half of the spell, if you know the nature and contents of a demiplane created by casting the spell by another creature, you can have the shadowy door connect to that demiplane instead. So you can go visit their chat room where their stuff is. I think like this is a kind of adventure / bad guy spell, or there's clever things you can do with it.
This is one of those spells that's designed for when you're 15th level and you have your wizard tower and you're summoning elementals to do your laundry and do your gardening, and you're trying to it's a spell that's trying to justify all the weird stuff you see whenever you go into Wizard's Tower during an adventure. But as a day-to-day player spell, where like I am being chased by goblins and a small dragon and a large dragon and an even bigger dragon, the theoretical usefulness of being able to create pocket dimensions and store stuff there, or have a cool secret clubhouse in the blind infinities between the shadow dimension and the negative dimension or whatever, that pales in comparison to I will cast a second level spell, we will climb this rope, and nothing can hurt us anymore. This is a spell where all the theoretical cool things you could do are just shot in the foot by having a much lower level spell do all the really useful escape from bad situation stuff. Basically, for the same thing, it's a lot more cramped in a rope trick. It's going to be hard to have that coffee and smoke, but in terms of adventure usefulness, rope trick just blows us out of the water. And in terms of accessibility,
There's 5 pages of comments on this on D&D Beyond.
how many are there for rope trick?
I don't know. I don't need to look because I know a rope trick works. But if this spell ends while you're inside the demiplane, how do you get out?
I guess you sleep for 8 hours and cast again, I guess.
If casting demiplane, no, see, demiplane creates a demiplane. Doesn't create an exit from this demiplane. But let's assume that your GM goes, yeah, fair, and says, okay, cast again. Where does the exit appear? And can you specify it? And does it have to be on the same plane you started on?
Oh,
This is weirdly underwritten for a high level spell. Like, wildly underwritten in many respects. It just doesn't tell you enough to know what you do with it. There's so many caveats. It's like, okay, 5 pages of comments, guys. Go read it yourselves. I don't know. I think Cull, because underthought, no one really figured out how this works.
I'd have to say Cull as well. Like, again, this is a cool idea, but
I love the idea.
It's one of those idea. I don't know if it's workable. We're gonna have to wait to get R to talk about exponential spaces in general,
It needs another 500 words.
which is a bad sign for when we're trying to cut as many words.
Well, way lesser spells have gotten that, and this one doesn't. I don't know what this is doing. How many editions can this pass through? And this is how underwritten it is. What the hell are you meant to do with it?
Presumably, because the previous editions it was so overwritten that it just took up an entire page.
Yeah, well, they've overshot quite a bit here.
Yeah.
Right, you know what? Done with it.
Again, this might come back ritual. It should be a special ritual. You have to get special ritual parts to make your ritual demiplane. Anyway.
It's a villain spell. Yeah, it's a lair spell or something. Okay. You know what? I hate to bring things to an end, but sometimes you just gotta go with
A destructive wave! Stomp on the ground, creating a burst of divine energy that ripples out from you for 30 feet. Each creature you choose in that 30 feet must take a con save or take 5d6 in thunder and 5d6 radiant or necrotic damage, and be knocked over. Save and throw to half damage and not being knocked over.
Easy to understand. Has a bit of versatility. 5th level, so d6 per level plus times 2. I'm not going to get very. I don't need to get very complicated with this. I think it's quite. It's a paladin spell. It's a paladin only spell.
You can also, if you're
Paladin, Tempest Domain.
yeah, the Tempest Cleric. No.
So it's this cleric. Yeah, but it's the Stompy cleric. That's a paladin, just in case you're wondering.
Speaking of someone who has played the Tempest Cleric, I was really, really happy when the spell came up because, well, first off, I had the special ability to maximize the thunder damage, so I was always getting a chunky 36 plus damage with this every time. But also, it's just a useful. It's an AOE that doesn't hit friendlies, which is always a plus, and it goes
Wow.
around you, so it's very good if you're the kind of person who gets stuck into melee when you're not casting spells.
Good for a tank, good for area denial. I love that allies are safe bit. That's crazy good. And the con save is kind of up the middle. That's a good save to target. Like, for the things that should be able to take this kind of damage, yeah, they'll probably be fine. But it can wreck face on smaller things or, cloth or rogue targets. So yeah. And knocked prone is just icing on the cake.
If you're in a particularly, the type of party that really likes to get stuck in, like you don't have a wizard, you have a warlock with the Eldritch Blade power or whatever, and you're a very stompy cleric, like a Tempest cleric, for example, and you're a fighter and your rogue really likes setting up sneak attacks, then this is the kind of thing where you all rush in, you start exploding people, and then when they're knocked prone, the rogue will start stabbing them.
Yeah, it's a perfect complement to a melee heavy party. Getting those advantage rolls on the attacks against the. Yeah, that's just so. I can just see it going off and being cool. And even if you're in there on your own, knocking a whole bunch of dudes prone doesn't hurt. Okay, we wouldn't have gotten into it now, but shouldn't it be called Thunder Wave?
We'll get to the tease eventually, don't worry.
Well, okay, so I take it we're kind of in favor of this one. Hard not to like pure damage.
Yeah, it is. It is an absolutely perfectly adequate spell. It has a useful use case. It's designed to be, there's very, very rarely a bad time to use it, and its damage is very specifically what we'll call on rate. It is neither too big for a 5th level spell nor too low, and I just think it's solid. And considering the controversies we've been having today, I'm honestly willing to give this a pass.
I would like to see a shatter effect against objects, but that's
Yeah, that's
just
fair. Like
that's
like
further frosting on the bun. Okay, I think we're gonna have to call it there at the moment. Like we've rattled on for a good hour or so, but yeah, not bad. Good start. It's I don't know, the D's so far pretty promising in either way. Things there that just need to be cut, just excised, but one or two gems.
I think this episode has been demonstrative of the reason that this spell list is so expansive is that they don't know what they can cut, because there's going to be situations where if you cut one thing, everyone's saying, but that's essential for the way I play my game. And they're going to demand that their demiplanes or their daylight spells or what have you are a very important part of the thing. And because 5th edition specifically was designed to be acceptable to other people, they got their designers to make as many spells as could cover as many bases as possible, and just show them all in there, and just trusted the players, the DMs, to go sorting through them to find out which ones are the best for their playstyle. And the result is the bloated list that we see before us.
And then they probably fired the designers.
It took them a while, but they did eventually.
Oh, they knew what they were calling. Okay. We're not forgetting, folks. We're never forgetting. Okay, look, that's been the Spell Cull episode 8. And we've got through a record low number of spells, but we had a good time doing it. And that's honestly probably the only thing we really care about at this point. I don't check your email. Raid Shadow Legends haven't been on to me. Have they been on to you?
I feel like there was a few random games of I'll keep getting these, was gas station pills in the email.
Why can I never get a straight answer to you? What? The things we got to blur, the things we got to bleep in this episode. My goodness. Okay, listen. Let's wrap this one up. Spell Cull, episode 8. We're working on the D's. We are grinding through the D. Can I make this any more inappropriate? Let's just call it there. How do we get out of these episodes, Scar?
Eventually, we'll be able to dimension door, but that's another page or two. So let's assume that we preemptively dimension dooring out of this, and we'll see you all on Discord. But for now, this call is over. Thanks for listening to the Adventure Party. You can find show notes and links to things we've mentioned at www.theadventuringparty.net and on our Facebook page. You can leave comments there, or talk to our Twitter account at AdventuringPTY, or you can record a voice message at www.speakpipe.com/theadventuringparty. We can also be contacted directly by email at party@theadventuringparty.net. If you'd like to be in touch with the party all the time, come join our Discord server, link in the show notes. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike version 3 license.
I'm drinking.
I don't have enough booze in for the long weekend.
You should fix that. Absolutely fix
I have
that.
a lot of rum is the thing, and not much else.
That's a good thing to have. I beat through a couple of G&Ts earlier, and now I'm knocking back the old
God, they're
Sierra
not going to be allowed
Nevadas.
to sell on Good Friday.
No, they can. They got rid of that.
Okay.
Yeah. I have to bleep that out, though. This is going at the end of this episode.
Fair enough.
Oh, so there was many moons ago. I know you're listening, folks, but I'm just talking to my friend Scarr here. Many moons ago, when Black Robed One, former show host, who did like tons of stuff with ice cream back in the day, you go back and check those episodes from 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He hosted many games for us down the years. Fantastic GM. But he made a point he'd always do a Good Friday game, because most of us were off work. Good Friday here in Ireland it's not a public holiday, but a lot of businesses kind of treat it as one, which is wild because it was traditionally one of the few days in the year when the pubs would close, including Christmas Day. So everybody would pre-buy as much drink as they could physically carry. And then we'd all go over to wherever Black Robed One was running the game, and we'd spend the whole day playing. And sometimes we'd play in like a feature length version of whatever campaign we were in at the time, like Star Wars or D&D or whatever. And sometimes he'd do something crazy, like he'd run Temple of Horrors while we got increasingly drunk. And it's not like we started easy. People would show up and go like, okay, let's crack into a bottle of port for a start. Or, bring an entire case of beer for themselves. So Good Friday. So you had to plan ahead. This was a serious operation. You had to have all your ducks lined up, and you had to have enough, because if you didn't have enough to last you, you're going to have to ask someone else for a drink.
Mm-hmm.
And adventurers don't like to share the rations. I believe they've changed the licensing laws. You can buy. Well, I was talking to a publican about it actually, and a couple of years ago, right after I came in, and he was like, "Yeah, it's terrible. We used to have 2 Christmas rushes, one before Christmas, and one before Good Friday. Like the Thursday before Good Friday was one of the busiest days of the year for off licenses for liquor stores." And they took it away. So they just and now I have to open on Good Friday because people are going to want drink.
Oh dear!
Just take the day off. So yeah, that's that. Any reflections on Good Friday? You should get your drink on though. Get it in.
Oh, maybe we should get the episode.
Okay, let's listen. You're listening to this to the end, but right after this, we recorded a cracker of an episode. Let's go.